Pole Voima. So 3 days hitting out on this bike, 9 laps on one day, caned, pretty much used the full battery. Might have gotten one more climb in for the 10, but it was good. 200 metres of elevation, or 190 metres of elevation per lap, so you're looking at 1800 metres of elevation to a battery, which is good. 750 watt hour battery. This bike has a 150 kilo max, which I think a lot of the e-bikes have got a 130 kilo max. And I know that the e-bikes are quite attractive to the heavier breed of man and woman, especially the men. The men are, they're heavier of the breed. And some guys with a 26 kilo bike plus their weight, using their bike to get in shape or just have more fun or whatever. Some of these bikes are a little bit, you're right on the limit with, say if you're 110 or 115 kilos, which isn't huge. It's not, a lot of guys are that size. You're past your weight limit, but this works for the heavier guys. 150 kilo weight, so 26 kilos for the bike, and then 124 kilos rider, kitted up. So that's cool. I like that. Frame warranty, I like that as well. So 5-year frame warranty. Not limited to the original owner, so that can pass on to the following owner or whatnot. So that's encouraging for the second-hand market for sure. Enough jibber jabber. How does it ride? High bottom bracket. The first thing to address is everybody talks about high bottom bracket, so you got to ride feet level. You should be riding feet level anyway. Like, that's the idea of balance. You're not really balanced there. You only change your feet when you're cornering, if you need to. So if certain bermed up corners, you wouldn't drop a foot. But corners where you're looking to get more grip on the inside of your tire, you've got to kind of mediate your angles of your feet. You've got to play with it. And this bike's no different. I think the idea of the high bottom bracket, people are getting a little twisted up with it, and I don't know, I might be wrong, I might be right. I know these guys have put so much deep thought into the design of it, but I think it's a lot to do with the fact that it's got 190 millimeters of travel. So if you were to run the bottom bracket height of a 160 travel rear bike, you'd be clapping these pedals into the ground everywhere, because 190 travel, no different to a downhill bike. So the level-footed thing is definitely good advice for any newer riders, or any riders really. But don't let it hinder your ability to ride. Like, oh no, I keep dipping my foot on that off-camber section where I'm dipping in and hitting the tight left, and the review says, or the user manual says, I've got to keep my feet level, and I keep clipping my inside pedal on the same rock constantly because I'm not dipping the outside pedal down to get the inside pedal out. Like, you've still got to ride relative to the trail that you're on and relative to the corner that you're going to hit. So I wouldn't put too much weight in the whole ride feet level unique to this bike. I would use that as a general rule for riding in general, and dip your feet where you need it. So just basics of riding. But they're not wrong. They're not wrong with their description. It's nice for them to tell people stuff like that. But I just don't think it holds as much weight as it seems to hold with the comments and whatnot. So nothing against it, but that's just my opinion of it. High bottom bracket when you're riding. It's got a huge front end. So ground to bar, I'm usually at about 1075 for a 27.5, 1070 for a 27.5 bike, to 1080 to 1090 for a 29er. Can't remember a downhill bike because I haven't ridden a downhill bike for forever. So, good couple of years at least. The Specialized Demo was the last downhill bike I rode. So this is, I think it's 1120 or 1130 up, or it was with the other stem. Now we're closer to probably 1110, maybe 1120. I should measure it, but maybe I'll write it on the video after I've measured it, after I've made this. But it's quite high, so it matches the bottom bracket. So your position relative feet to hands is still the same as on any other bike. All they've done is matched that with that, kept the bottom bracket high, so they can have 190mm of travel and not be smacking pedals into the ground and still have plenty of clearance. And it gives you heaps of clearance for climbs and whatnot. The detriment of being so high is when you're not familiar with the bike, or you're not familiar with that style of riding, being high up on the bike, it feels scary when you're not confident. So when you're confident, no worries. But when it's getting a little out of shape, you have to. I feel myself like there's an off-camber chute on that new trail I've been riding, and I feel like when it gets a little out of shape, or I'm not super confident, like I'm not locked in, I squat down real low to get closer to the ground. So if it does go down, I've got less distance to fall. So most bikes, sit a little bit lower, and you don't feel that so much. But being up high, you feel more like you're teetering up high on those off-camber steep trails. Get used to it, not an issue. But that's something to think about. I wouldn't say it puts me off, but it did hinder me a little bit, I think. I think it hindered me a little bit for sure. Even still at the end. Quite a big bike as well. 485 reach, which I'm used to 470. 485 is me at full stretch. And this didn't feel like it stretched me out that bad, but it's quite big. 1313 wheelbase, 1313 millimeter wheelbase, so huge compared to what I'm used to riding. But as you can see, I rode it twisted gum, twisted noodle, Moriata, which is what it is. It's pretty flat, pretty straight, not really anything to put you out of shape. But that steep track, Purgatory, that would find the limit, absolutely. Trying to duck into catch berms and stuff on a bike that's too long for me. If this seat was higher, if it was the older, larger bikes with the higher seat standover clearance, there's no way I can tip it down stuff like that. So having this low, I could always get my butt down and put myself into a position where the reach didn't feel like it had me completely out of my ability out of my zone of comfort. So that was good. Got on with it really, really well. I could send it pretty much anywhere. Suspension wise, this rear, like I said, I've gone back and forth, 2, 3, 2. Today I went back to 2. Felt pretty good. Still a little bit choppy, if I'm honest, and I think that's more a case of that shock with the standard can is a little choppy. The new can absolutely will fix that. Absolutely. I'm almost sure of it. Bigger negative chamber. Who knows? Coil would definitely fix it. I don't know if these guys recommend the coil or not, but I'm sure a coil would feel killer on this bike. They're running it at 30% sag, 2 tokens, so not a lot of progression happening in the shot. So it must work. The fork, 190mm of travel, new Zeb, old damper. So RC damper, new debonair spring with the buttercup on the left, I believe. Maybe it doesn't have the buttercup on the left, but I think it does. I think all of the new springs have the buttercup at the bottom of the spring. Correct me if I'm wrong. But 2 tokens it started with. I didn't really like it. It felt too soft, and then when I came up enough, it was choppy. But maybe I needed to just go down a little bit of pressure instead of taking the tokens out. But taking the tokens out and going up in the pressure just gave me instant confidence. Still a little bit of chop, but nowhere near as much. Heaps more grip. I could push it into stuff and know that tire was going to be there for me. Whereas with the 2 and it, less pressure, but still a little choppy, the grip didn't seem the same. But today I got to do a lap on my mate's Norco Sight VLT, the newer Sight VLT. So with it looks identical pretty much. Shock in that configuration and whatnot. He's got a Floatex 2, an offset bushing, a 27.5 rear that comes as a 29er. So we've played a lot to get that bike set up where it is, and it is dialed. He's got the new Zeb on the front, but the Zeb Ultimate new damper, and that thing felt so crisp. I'll put a video of that up as well, just one lap, to show you how confident I was on that instantly. Literally just climbed it up the hill and then sent it. Didn't warm up on it, didn't do nothing, just sent it. The Mazda 2.6, I'm digressing, but yeah, the Mazda 2.6 Enduro tyres felt mint. Felt so in control. Really, really good. Back to the bike. This SDG seat is doing something weird. It's not coming up now. So over the day, yesterday, it started going slower and slower, and now it doesn't come up at all. I've played with the cable. I think I'm going to have to pop it off and see if there's pressure to do in there. But yeah, back to the bike, the handling. I thought it was going to be bad. I thought it was going to be hard to handle and a big, cumbersome donkey of a bike. And it's not the case. It is not the case. And that's proof. The proof's in the pudding with the laps. It descends really, really well. I wish I could get a better setup with the suspension earlier. today on my last couple of runs, I went quite a bit stiffer on the compression, a little softer on the spring, and I went 3 of 5 clicks of compression again on that fork, which seems to be the best, which is kind of what I found at Moriata, and then I opened it up again at Waterfalls, and I was just a little in and out. After jumping on Todd's bike, it made me think, yep, I'm missing compression. So compression again, and yeah, it was just confident. It was confident. Sizing, if you're looking for one, I could probably get on really, really well with the next size down. I don't know if I'd get on better with it. I don't feel like it was too, I don't know, it's hard to say. I don't know if it was too big for me. I don't think it was, because I rode it well. So, yeah. I think it's killer. I think this bike's killer. The Bosch motor, I don't like that you can't, apparently there's not a lot of options for de-restricting it. I don't like that. I've whinged about it before. I don't like that you're governing me to 25 k's an hour. Get out of town. Apart from that, climb's killer. The motor's killer. The power, like, instantly on when you want to go. It's instant. It's so good. It doesn't trail either, so when you get off the power, it doesn't keep going for that split second, which I hate. I do not like that about the Levo motors, the Bros motors. And I've probably shit on the Levos a little bit, or the Specialized e-bikes a little bit much, purely because of the motor. If they change that motor, I'm pretty sure that bike, in exclusion of the motor, like outside of that motor, is also a savage bike. Probably one of the best e-bikes on the market. But the motor just lets it down hard. And it's wide. It's such a wide... It feels like it's got a wider stance, like your pedals are wider than all of these other ones. I've clipped pedals on the Levo more than on any other e-bike for sure. If I have to compare this to the Marin that I rode, personally, I'd go the Marin for the lower slung setup, and it's a lighter bike. It's a smaller, lighter. It just felt smaller. It felt more easy to send it. Easy to get up to speed on. This one took me a little bit longer to get up to speed. It didn't take me that long, really. But maybe, I don't know. It hasn't been long enough. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing too early of a review. Like, yeah, don't take my word for this bike. This is just a 3-day ride review. So take it with a grain of salt. But the Geo's killer. It works great. I just think it's higher than I'd like. I think it's higher than I'd like. I think I'll find myself in sketchy situations where I'm too high off the ground, and it will hinder my confidence. But when I'm confident, I could send this down anything. I could probably send this. I should have gone a lap down Waterfall DH, because the brakes are ridiculously good. Heaps of strength in the Shimano XT 4-pot brakes, as always. They're so good. No wandering bite point on these, which is great. They've changed this, so this little dingleberry up here, so I don't have the big screen. It'll be better if it's in the top tube, like the Specialized, so you can turn your bike upside down without damaging anything. But it's definitely a step in the right direction for Bosch. I don't have much else to say about it. These D-Max wheels, I assume they're pretty good. They never felt wonky, or never more compliance out of the D-Max than out of my Fun Phantom wheel at the front. Definitely noticed that straight away when I put it on. Not a lot of difference, but it is more compliant. So maybe they're not super stiff, which is probably what you want. As long as they're not too flexy. They're obviously e-bike rated, because they're the D-Max e-bike version. Good bike. Well done. This dude, or these guys who built it, this fella Leo, I heard him on the Pink Bike podcast. Seen a few interviews of him over the time, over the last probably a couple of years. They've been getting a little bit more traction, and a lot of people respect him for his opinions. So I needed to dig deep and see what his brain's all about, see how he thinks, and see what he talks about. And he's definitely a deep, analytical thinker, and I love that. So, and he's built a bike that absolutely works, and works for him. He shreds on it. I've seen a heap of footage of him riding. I can't argue with it. This bike shreds. This bike absolutely sends. So I don't like the height. And the pedaling. The pedal's killer. flies up the hill. I think because it's 190 and they've worked really hard to get a pedaling platform, it's slightly choppy on the climb, but not really. Just really efficient. Like, there's no bob ever. There's never any bob. Maybe if you get up and sprint, there might be some bob, but it's 25 max, so I'm sprinting stuck in the mud anyway. Pedals like a demon. Just so easy to get up the hill versus Toddy's bike today. Just so easy, but descends. It's I guess you call this a downhill bike, wouldn't you? Like, it's a shuttleable downhill bike. Is that what it is? It's cool. And today, I know I say it all the time, I'm not one to buy an e-bike. I'm not interested in buying e-bikes. I don't want an e-bike. I don't want to have to be restricted to that thing, but I might buy an e-bike. I love how many laps I get. This is ridiculous. Like, just lap after lap after lap, send it, and then go home. 2 hours later, done 5, 6, 7, 8 laps, instead of go out 2 laps, 3 laps, knackered, or 4 laps knackered, and a 3-hour ride or a 2-hour ride. Yeah, this thing I can just boost, get it done, and get home, and eat dinner, get ready for work, whatever. So it's more and more enticing as we go on, but I don't know. And maybe I'm not really getting on with my Banshee that well, if I'm honest. So maybe that's driving me towards it. I think I need to get some suspension changes happening on that bike. So, but Pole, well done. This bike's killer. I don't rate it as the best e-bike I've ever ridden, but it's certainly not the worst. It is up there for sure. So the Marin still takes the cake. The Marin Alpine Trail E2 still takes the cake for me. Who knows, that'll be in the garage soon. Maybe.